You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the Options Insider Radio Network, where we go above and beyond our traditional stomping grounds and see what's going on really out there in the crypto markets. Going to talk the Bitcoin, the ETH, the Solana, the volume, the volatility, the SKEW, the OI, and a whole bunch more. Maybe sprinkle in a few other altcoin in there as well. My name, of course, is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-compelling network upon which so many of you are binging these days. Remember, if you like what you hear, keep rating and reviewing wherever you get this content. It does help the new folks continue to discover the show. And, of course, if you like more content in your lives, our This Week in Futures Options program often touches on crypto content as well as other educational content throughout the week. I know a lot of you are still coming to grips with these options things. Then, of course, check out the full network. If you have a lot of questions about crypto options, we've had a lot of guests in our Pro Q&A hot seat tackling this exact topic, including recently. We're going to have another one probably coming up tomorrow. Old School Options Pro also runs a crypto exchange now, Mercury Digital Assets. Let's talk about Tony Saliba, one of our favorite guests in the hot seats. If you have questions for our guests, as well as you want to listen to our Unusual Activity show, get live access to this, everything else we do throughout the week, register for our awesome Pro Trading Crate giveaways and a whole bunch more. theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more about all of that as we keep on going right on into the Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. Yes, we're talking about Bitcoin coming into showtime a little bit smaller than it was this time last week, but not a lot. 19,545 is where it was at the end of our show last week. Coming into the start of today's show, 19,343. So down about a little over 200 handles on the week, about 202 to be precise. So in the annals of Bitcoin, not a heck of a lot of evolution. Of course, we did dip below the 19,000 handle again since our last show. That came last Friday. We got to about 18,885 on the dark side, and on the upside, we got up to almost 19,700, about 19,672. That was last Tuesday. after our show last week on Monday. So an interesting range, not a huge range, but a decent range for Bitcoin during the week. That means if we're kind of hanging out in this range, we're going to see vol continue to erode, and that's pretty much what we're seeing out there. Remember, all these analytics coming at you courtesy of our friends over there at Genesis Volatility, gvol.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires out there. If you did that, you would see the current average at the money vol out there across the term structure in Bitcoin hanging out at about a 53. That's down a little over about 2.4 points from where it was this time last week, hanging out at a 55.4. The SKEW kind of holding steady. It was about a negative 2.2 on the show last week, so slightly negative 2.1 this week. So not a huge evolution there. OI-wise, same deal. We saw, of course, a lot of OI go away with September. October struggling to replace it. Do a decent job out there. About 180,000 contracts open on the call side out there on Deribit right now. It's up about 10,000. Puts 92,000, up about 6,000. So we're hanging out pretty much still exactly at that 2-to-1 calls over puts level out there on Deribit, which we've been hanging out at for some time over there. Let's look at the top positions open on Deribit, see what's going on out there, any evolution out there. Number 5 in our top 5 this week is the 40,000 strike. So that, shall we say, optimistic strike, still open for size up there. 11,200 contracts open. It's up a whopping 200 contracts from this time last week. So not a huge evolution there. Number 4, right behind it, we have the 25,000 strikes. Now we're coming right back down here to the 25,000 strike. That's got nearly 14,000 contracts open, about 13.9 thousand. It's up about 1,100 contracts from this time last week. Number 3, we have the 22,000 strike, so even closer to the fire. That's got about 13,960 contracts open there. So a few contracts north of the 25,000 strike this week. That's also up about 1,100 contracts from where it was this time last week. Number 2, we have the 19,000 strike. Got 17,600 contracts open. It's up about 1,100 as well. That's the magic number this week. And number 1, we have the 20,000 strike still. 19,400 contracts open. It's up about almost 3,000, about 2,900 contracts from this time last week. So Bitcoin OI still hanging out around the relevant strikes of 20,000 and 19,000 with a smattering of 22 and 25. And just for fun, just for a kicker, we have the 40K strike there at number 5. In terms of active days, how active has it been since our last show? Not really that active. The biggest and busiest day we saw was the 20th. So, of course, we're talking about Thursday last week. That had not quite 40,000 contracts on the tape, about 39,200. The week before, the big day was 63,000. So we're a little bit of a distant second to last week out there. And, of course, we've seen many 40-plus thousand days over the intervening last couple of months. So not the busiest of weeks, but decently active. And we saw that pace throughout most of the weeks. I'd say it was pretty steady, if nothing really blowing the doors off last week. In terms of CME, let's see what's going on the CME crypto front. Remember, you can find these reports for yourselves, cmegroup.com/TWIFO. These are created for our This Week in Futures Options program, but luckily for you, they also have a cryptocurrency section, so you can go see all these numbers for yourselves as well. The big Bitcoin options having a decent couple of weeks. Almost 1,400 going up last week. And interestingly enough, nearly 400 going up today. So let's go out there really quickly and see what's lighting it up out there in the big Bitcoin options over there at CME. It seems like it's the 11,500 puts in December doing about 50 contracts. It looks like a vertical, a very wide vertical. The 11,500, 19,500 put vertical went up 54 times today. That's obviously 108 contracts right there. We also have an 80 lot of the January 15,000 puts. Actually looks like a 1x2. Weird put activity going up out here, listeners. We've got the 15,000, 20,000 in January, put 1x2, 40 of the 20,000 puts, 80 of the 15,000 puts going up here this week. Interesting paper out here. And the big, remember, these are 5x on the multipliers. These are pretty beefy contracts. If we get to the stuff you folks are more likely to trade, the micro contracts, not a very active day. A 1 lot on the tape so far today for the micro. Last week, a little bit of a different story, about 1,300 contracts going up last week. In terms of products you folks are more inclined to trade, we've also got our friend Bitto out there coming into showtimes at about 1190. down about 1/10 of a point. It's not a heck of a lot of movement out there in BITO since our last show. Vol-wise, actually up slightly, up to about 60.3. It's up about 1.3 points from where it was this time last week. Still hanging out close to that 60 level that's been hanging out at for some time out there. Let's break down the top positions in BITO, see what you folks are up to. On number 5, we have 11,000 of the Nova 10 puts. Again, we're hanging out at about a 12, 1190, and it's the Nova 10 puts. For number 5, number 4, 18,400 of the Dece 12 calls. Number 3, 28,000 of the December end of year, so it's by around the 30th, 10 puts. And then we've got 29,000 of the Dece 15 calls. And rounding out the top positions in BITO out there, listeners, we have 55,000 of the Dece 10 puts. Interesting. So a big jump between 2 and 1. So like the 10 strike, a pretty popular one out there. You folks out there on the 10 strike in BITO, hit us up. Let us know. I was talking about doing 1x2s out there recently on the put side. Didn't have any on last week. I was looking at a few 11 half, 11, I believe, were the strikes. I ended up nothing ever lined up to get some fills for me, so I kind of held off. But intriguing stuff. As you mentioned earlier, that put skew not quite as negative right now as it has been in recent weeks. So those 1x2s, buying 1, selling 2, not quite as attractive as they have been, but it's interesting to keep an eye on as we keep on rolling right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, listeners, welcome to the altcoin universe, a portion of the show where we dive into everything outside of Bitcoin, except for right now when we talk about the top 10 from a market cap perspective. Number 10, still clinging with a vice-like grip to number 10. Good old Dogecoin, 7.8 billion worth of market cap out there. Number 9, Solana, 10.1 billion. Number 8, it's Cardano, 12.3 billion worth of market cap. Number 7, Binance USD, 21.6. Number 6, XRP, 22.7 billion. Then we jump up a bit to number 5, BNB, 43.8 billion. Number 4, USD Coin, 43.85. So just barely managing to eke out a BNB this week. Number 3, Tether, 68.5 billion. And then numero due, it's ETH, 163.8 billion. And the big dog this week, Bitcoin, 370 billion worth of market cap. ETH, kind of like Bitcoin, kind of hanging out this week. We saw it 1323 at the end of our last show. Coming into start of today's show, 1340. It's up about 17 handles on the week. So again, for ETH, that's not a heck of a lot. A little bit more of a range on the week, nearly 1,000-point range. We got as low as 1269. That was last Friday. And the high, like we said, 1365. That came on Sunday. So nearly 1,000 points on the week. All that, still not enough to keep the vol even hanging out where it is. We were at a 66 on the show last week, coming into the start of today's show, 64.6. So, we said it before and we will say it again. Crypto vol acts a lot like precious metals vol. It can spike. It can get up there. We've seen ETH get into triple digits. Bitcoin has flirted with it as well. But it takes a lot to keep it there. It really needs to keep moving and rocking and rolling. Otherwise, that vol slowly withers and dies on the vine. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now. ETH has dropped from north of triple digits back down to below a 66 now in the past month and change. So a lot of evolution out there on the vol front. Not a heck of a lot of evolution on the SKEW this week. Negative 2.6 this week, negative 2.2 last week. So unlike Bitcoin, getting a little bit more negative, but not much. ETH OI, it's been hanging out pretty much 4-1. Calls over puts for a while. That remains the case again this week. 3.7 million calls open on Deribit right now. It's up about 200,000. 921,000 puts open. That's up about 101,000 this week. Still hanging out pretty much 4-1. That's the ratio ETH folks seem to like. In terms of positioning, where are you folks lining up? What are the size positions out there in ETH options this week? Let's find out. Number 5, it is the 1600 strike. Has 178,000 contracts open. That's a newcomer to the top 5 this week. Number 4, we have the 2500 strike that has 209,000 contracts open. That is unched from this time last week. Number 3, the 3500 strikes. Now we're getting up there a bit. 287,000 contracts open there. It's up 2,000. Number 2, the 4,000 strike, so even farther up there. That's got 329,500 contracts open. It's up about 7,500 from this time last week. And the number one size position in ETH options on Deribit this week, still the 3,000 strike. 433,400 contracts open there. It's up about 3,400 from this time last week. That 3,000 strike still obviously capturing a lot of imagination out there. I have to imagine the 4,000, probably some verticals going up between the 3,000 and 4,000, which is why 4,000 has remained glued at the number 2 spot for a while. But still, intriguing stuff. You have one, dare I say it, relevant strike, the 1,600 strike, and the rest of this, shall we say, a little bit of pie in the sky. Very different stark contrast from what we're seeing in Bitcoin, which outside of that 40,000 strike is all fairly relevant strikes, 20,000, 19,000, 22,000, and 25,000. So a little bit of a different use case, different outlook here for ETH folks versus Bitcoin. Either way, this is kind of more of an old school top positioning that we're seeing in ETH right now. This is back to what we used to see maybe the tail end of last year when it was all extreme upside across the board. Interesting stuff afoot. In terms of action, how much action do we see in ETH options on Deribit this week? Not a ton. The busiest day was actually Friday, with about 124,000 contracts on the tape. That's not a heck of a lot at all. Last week we saw 327,000. Week before 669,000. So $1.24 it's kind of meager by comparison. Let's get on out to the CME crypto products, see what's going on their Ether options. Remember, they launched big ETH options just a couple of weeks ago, and last week actually had a comparatively decent week. Remember, these are huge. These are 50 ETH contracts, so any paper is pretty decent. We actually saw 216 contracts going up last week, so that's definitely their most active week by far. It's like the big trade was the March 2,500 vertical, went up last Monday 50 times. So that's obviously 100 of the 216 contracts going up in that one trade. It's like we also had the 1,400 calls in October. No, these are the 1,400 calls in November, going up 46 times. Looks like opening on Tuesday and then closing on Thursday. So they put them on, took them off. Quick bit of living out there in the 1,400 calls. Interesting stuff out here. So they're starting to get some traction. I don't expect most of our listeners will be playing around on the 50 ETH contract, but you never know out there. A lot of funds also tuning in. Let's get into the micro side, see what's going on out there. A little bit more right-sized contracts. And a pretty active week last week. Nearly 14,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog last week was the 1,400 put out there in November, doing, again, about nearly 6,000 contracts. It's like all of that was on Monday. 5,960 of the 1,400 puts. We also saw 1,268 of the 13 half puts go out on Monday, as well as almost 2,500 of them going up on Thursday and 1,700 on Friday. So a total of nearly 6,000 of the 1,400 puts traded last week, again, all in one day. And then 5,400 of the 13 half puts. Those traded spread out throughout the week, opening on all of that. So intriguing action on the put front here. So that was the big action last week. Also saw the 1,500 puts in January going up pretty evenly throughout the week as well, about 500 a day pretty much for the latter half of the week. And then also saw a little bit of action on the par puts, but mostly the 1,500 puts. And then this week, looks like we got 3,100 contracts have gone up already so far today. So a pretty active day. It looks like the 1,500 calls in December are the big dog, doing 610 contracts today. There's about 9,000 contracts open on that strike, so that could be closing. And we also have the 1,300 puts. These expire in November, doing, looks like the 1,300 13 half put spread has gone up 589 times today. And there is no OI on either of those strikes, so both of those are opening. So maybe a bit of a 1,300 13 half vertical. You like that one, listeners? We kind of are hanging out right in the middle of that range right now, 1332 over there on the CME platform. So intriguing stuff. Oh, it looks like it might have been a box, actually, because I also have the 1,300 13 half put spread went up 589 times as well. I see a lot of boxes going up in these contracts. Interesting stuff afoot out here. Either way, some paper is starting to accrete out there on the CME crypto front. Let's get on out to Solana, see what's going on out there. Number 3 in a lot of your hearts out there, I know. Let's see. Solana on our last show, 3081, back below the 30 handle this week, 28.37, down almost 2.5 handles, about 2.4 handles from where it was this time last week. Vol-wise, starting to creep up a little bit. It was 71 on the show last week, 73.25 this week. SKEW-wise, looking pretty similar to where it was this time last week, negative 2.9. This week, negative 3.15 last week. So still negative, slightly less so than it was this time last week. Let's see, size, positions. We'll get to that in a second. Let's go to the OI first. And once again, it is all puts all the time. About 250,000 calls open for Solana. That's up about 9,000 from this time last week. And puts almost 500,000, 490,000. That's down 20,000. So we're hanging out at nearly 2-to-1 puts over calls, which again has been an interesting setup we've seen for some time out here. And Solana options makes it very different from the other two here on the show. In terms of top positions, also, we have a little bit more evolution out there week to week. Number 5, it is the 28 strike with 32,000 contracts open. That's a newcomer this week. Number 4, we have the 40 strike, 47,300 contracts open. Again, a newcomer to the top 5. Number 3, the 30 strike, 55,000 contracts open. That's down 15,000 from this time last week. Number 2, the 32 strike. That's got 95,000 contracts open. That's down 21,000. And the big dog and Solana options this week, the 26 strike, 134,000 contracts open. That's up 36,000 from this time last week. In terms of action, kind of similar to what we saw, close to 200,000 contracts was the most active day last week out there in Solana. Let's get on out to Ripple. What's lighting it up in XRP land? A little bit of downside this week. 47.3 cents last week, 45.6 cents this week, down about 1.7 cents on the week. A good old Doge, pretty much unched this week, so pretty much literally unched out there for Doge. Litecoin, 51.70 on the show last week, 52.60 or so this week, up about 90 cents. Cardano, 37 cents last week, 36 cents this week, so off about a penny. And then we've got Polkadot here, 6.22 last week, 5.89 this week, down a whopping 33 cents. And Shiba, adding a decimal point in the wrong direction, which is never good for the Shiba Lambo crew. All right, everybody. That music means we are drawing to a close with this Just the Facts, Ma'am edition of the Crypto Rundown program. If you like picking the brains of our guests, don't worry. We've got Tony Saliba joining us in the hot seat tomorrow. You can talk about all things options as well as crypto, as he does, of course, run a crypto derivatives exchange now as well. You can check it out for yourselves. It's a great crypto exchange, Mercury Digital Assets. So you have questions about crypto and options and or the intersection of the two, Tony will be a great one to answer them for you. Get those in. If you're on the pro side, start sending them in now via the members hotline. Of course, if you're not part of the pro, you want to join the ever-growing party that is the secret club. You know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro or /secret club. That'll get you in, get you access to that pro Q&A, options oddities, all the other 100 plus great pro episodes we've done, and all the ones still to come, giveaways, and a whole bunch more. And then back again, all the rest of our content for the rest of the week until we're back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.